Here we are back again for part 2 of Tenacity June. It's a dystopian story about a woman who's just trying to find hope in a very dark world. And it doesn't stay dark. I'll just let you know that so that you don't feel like you're going to listen to this and be depressed. All right, Tenacity June, part 2. By dawn, the settlers decided what to do about sincerity. They sent Talent November to the healing yurt. Talent could bully like none other, which is why they chose him to represent. Talent stood silently on the threshold and watched Tenacity tend to the stranger. Whether his intention was to intimidate or to respect, Tenacity wasn't moved. She said, "Talent, what you want?" Talent snorted out his nose. "She got to go. You know she got to go." "I don't know." "People want her gone. She's still linked, Ten. Linked. They gon' follow her right to us." "Then we unlink her." "Too late. She probably a worm. How'd she escape? Pregnant to burstin'? Alone? Impossible. They tracking her." "You said same about me when I came." "Yeah, I did." Tenacity stared right back at him. Talent sighed. "We keep the baby, but we send the stranger deeper into the wilderness to throw off trackers. We unlink her out there. Nothing happens, we bring her in." "She weak." "We got volunteers. Carry her away if need be. Watch her." "She needs me." Talent's mouth tightened like it didn't want to let the words out. "Then you go too." Tenacity looked at her daughter. "You got 15 minutes. Decide 'fore we come take her." Talent left the yurt and was assaulted by questions outside. People wanted to know what was happening. Tenacity leaned over Sincerity. "Quiet," she asked. "Why you here?" The stranger stared with wide eyes. "Freedom." "How'd you get away?" "Underground took me." Tenacity's eyes narrowed. "Why didn't they unlink you?" "Station was raided." "I didn't hear about any raid." "People ran. Probably dead. Man who helped me escape died in the wilderness. Left me alone." "They tracking you?" "Maybe." Tenacity understood. She thought about it, then began packing up her supplies. "We gonna take you away from here. Safer like that." Sincerity turned on her side and watched. "For you or me?" "For them out there and her in here." Tenacity brushed a hand over her daughter's head. "Kay?" "Kay." Tenacity knelt before her daughter. "I'll be back soon, as sun's gone 3 times." Child didn't want her mother to leave. She was afraid, but knew it did no good to cry. Instead, she threw her arms round her mother's neck and held on. Tenacity hugged her. She didn't want to leave, but she didn't trust the others not to kill Sincerity. She felt kinship with the stranger, sympathy for her. Hadn't been so long ago that she'd been in this similar situation. 2 volunteers walked Sincerity out of the yurt. Tenacity had to go. Being wrenched from her mother was the worst pain the child had ever experienced. Bruises on her heart would never heal. She watched her mother go till she couldn't see her any more. Then she followed. None noticed. Tenacity didn't look back. Her daughter was safer with Sincerity far away. As Sincerity and her escorts entered the wilderness round Arcadia, an alarm sounded. Someone shouted, "Raiders!" Tenacity turned back, but Sincerity latched onto her arm. "Don't leave me!" Prying her off, Tenacity spoke to the other escorts. "Go, quiet and fast as you can." She had no intention of going with them. Her priorities had changed. Raiders spread through Arcadia like roaches, swarming and knocking settlers aside. They shouted obscenities and vile insults. They cheered as they killed men and subdued women. Tenacity threaded her way between yurts, tents, and lean-tos. She hid, dodged, and ran to avoid raiders. She did everything in her power to get to her daughter. Some settlers fought. Others fled. Many lay dying. Sobs, shouts, moans combined with the stench of blood, bile, and excrement. In no time at all, raiders had eviscerated Arcadia. More than once, Tenacity put down an attacker with a heartfelt punch or clever maneuver. None could catch her. Her cheeks flamed and her eyes reflected fires consuming Arcadia's shelters. She arrived to find a blaze consuming the healing yurt. Tenacity ran to the threshold, shouting her daughter's name. She buried her hands trying to see inside. She burned her hands. Her hair singed. "Hope!" she yelled, an edge of panic in her voice. When yurt collapsed, Tenacity backed away. Tears ran streaks of soot down her cheeks. She turned in place, coughing and calling her daughter. "Hope!" Tenacity used the name she had given her daughter, not the name imposed by church officials. People ran in all directions, obscured by smoke. A small voice cut through the chaos and caught Tenacity's attention. Hope ran toward Tenacity, dodging legs and falling structures. She was almost there, almost within reach. Tenacity had just managed to step forward, arms out, when a raider struck Tenacity in the head. Tenacity went down. The raider threw Hope over his shoulder and disappeared into wilderness. And that's all for part 2.